Hi everyone, my name is Junon. I have a health science background and I'm the author of the book Truth and Empathy: How to Find Your Soulmate. This video is about chapter number 3. So this chapter's title is Your Most Compatible Romantic Partners. And again, I have some points written here to make sure that I cover them all. That particular chapter sort of looks at different characters that you need to look for a mate that is compatible with you. So in the first and second chapter, you're able to identify your personality type, and now we're going to sort of explore more what makes or breaks most romantic relationships. So, sort of a recap of when we talk about truth and empathy is that truth has to do with the level of truth that a person can perceive and understand easily. So, is this person mostly focused on the five senses? Are they focused mostly on intellectual reality, or can they easily perceive the spiritual reality of this world? And the level of empathy has to do with whether the person is mostly a masculine energy or feminine energy. So does this person easily empathize with others? Do they literally able to feel what another person is feeling? Now, these two variables are very important in determining a person's character because we intuitively know. Let's say if I were to tell someone, okay, I know this great man. Let's say I was talking to a woman. I say, you know what? He's very good looking, very intelligent, very talented. He is financially stable. Actually, he's rich, and he is very witty, but he compulsively lies and doesn't empathize with others, so has low empathy. I think that most women will say, well, it looks good on paper, but I don't think so, because intuitively we know that the person's level of truth and their level of empathy determines whether this person is a loving person. It has to do with their level of integrity. And without that, it's virtually impossible to have a relationship in which you feel safe, you feel that a person really has your best interest at heart. So what is kind of interesting is that when it comes to this level of awareness, because this is what we're talking about, like personality types are not just personality, it has to do with their level of awareness. And you can also recommend that people check David R. Hawkins' work. He wrote this book, Power versus Force, and a number of other ones like The Eye of the Eye. I think these are really good books to understand these levels of awareness. Is that uh, each person is, in a sense, an impersonal representation or living, breathing, a sort of ambassador of their level of awareness. So, in other words, if a person is attracted to you or um, don't find you appealing, it's not personal. It's literally one level of awareness being, in a sense, repulsed by another one. And most people want to stay at the level of awareness that is close to them. So that's where they feel most comfortable. When people say, "Oh, I want the person who's the most loving," no, it feels great to be, let's say, with someone at a high level of spiritual evolution if you are also close to that level or at the same level. If there's too much of a gap, the person's mere presence is going to remind you of your weaknesses and where you don't meet the standard. And that will actually damage your self esteem and your sense of self worth. So that's why it's important to find someone who's around the same level of awareness as you so that it feels a lot more comfortable, feels like, okay, I'm home now. What is interesting within this third chapter is that instead of just talking about these level laws as something just sort of intellectual exercise, uh, you get to know how to record this energy. So if you have just a normal, let's say, a digital recorder, you can record your own vibration and listen to it back and see what other people perceive. Because what happens is that, let's say if a person is an energy empath, and I'm one of them, and I've come across a number of these type of energy throughout my life, is that they don't need the enhancement of a device like that to be able to sense the subtle energy. But for most people, it's too subtle, so it has to be amplified by, let's say, a recorder, and then let's say you can use your computer to download the MP3 audio, and you can turn up the volume. And what is interesting is that it is silent; you don't hear anything, but the body will start uh, changing. So if, let's say, you expose yourself to a person's subtle energy, your breathing rate might change, your heart rate, your sense of well being. So, literally, that subtle energy is information. And if you know a person's subtle energy, you get to know who they are at their essence, not what they appear to be with the five senses, but what is their level of spiritual evolution and what is their essence. So this is something that is probably have not been discussed in many other spiritual books. Is that how do you bring this sort of idea of energy and spirituality in sort of in a more tangible, measurable way. So yes, that energy can be recorded and be experienced, you know, uh, very easily nowadays. Now, what I did mention in the other areas of the book is that the importance of breathing. Why it's important? Because the breathing will determine the person's overall health. And if you look at the sequences, that a person has a particular level of awareness, and that particular level of awareness will determine a person's vibration or solar energy. The solar energy will determine what type of nervous system can actually tolerate or be a good match to that solar energy. So the person's dominant brain will be either beta, alpha, or theta. And depending on that brain dominance, like has to do if it's a slow brain waves or is it a fast brain waves, that will determine their resting breathing rate to a 1-to-1 ratio. And that resting breathing rate will determine if a person is more or less likely to have, uh, let's say, 32 straight teeth, or if they are going to be having a small jaw and actually crooked teeth. How does that work? Is that if a person, let's say, actually 85% of the population are beta brainwave dominant, is that if you take the average individual and you put them in an environment that is unnatural. So if you look at most people, they live in cities where they are chronically stressed. So there's obviously stress, at a high level, and it's like low to moderate. They are not eating proper food, sort of processed foods. They don't get proper air, not proper exercise. So it's a very unnatural environment. And if you take someone with a beta brainwave dominance and you put them in this situation for many, many years, most likely they will start hyperventilating. And what I've noticed is that if a person breathes more than 16 times a minute, they usually have to breathe through the mouth instead of through the nose. And when this happens, is that the tongue, which is supposed to be on the roof of the mouth, and that the tongue actually shapes the maxilla, so the top jaw. What happens is that the tongue falls down because you cannot have a tongue on the roof of your mouth and breathe through the mouth. Now, what happens is that if the tongue is not resting there and shaping the jaw, then you have a small jaw. And when the teeth grow, they have no place to go. So you have crooked teeth. Therefore, you can predict who is more or less likely to have crooked teeth based on their brainwave dominance. But if you actually go further up, it has to do with their level of awareness. So your level of awareness uh, can predict at a pretty high degree whether or not you're going to have 32 straight teeth or not. And if you look at, let's say, other animals in nature, you don't see 80% of crocodiles with crooked teeth or dogs. And the reason being is that these animals are in their natural environment. It's not like human beings where we have created this artificial, sort of like way of life that creates all types of health issues. So I know that's sort of mind-boggling, but if you go and check, it is true. And interesting enough, 15% of the world population still has straight teeth, space for 32 straight teeth. So, and they live in the same environment. So I find that people who have naturally slow brain waves are less likely to have issues with crooked teeth. So they have space for, all their teeth. And it's not normal to have so many people having to extract their wisdom teeth to have the rest being straight. So something as is rarely mentioned. Now, the because of the fact most people hyperventilate in the book, uh, to know what is your true resting breathing, it has to be corrected. So there is an oral cleansing video, and it's on YouTube for free. You can watch it, it's 10 minutes, and that helps you correct your resting brain so you know what is truly a match with your dominant brainwaves. When it comes to compatibility, I think we need to look at a number of factors. First, a lot of people they don't realize that how a person organizes their life is very important. So your organizational style will have a great impact on whether or not you're compatible on a sort of logistical level. So, uh, and I think that some people can take it to extreme where, let's say, they look at two individuals as if you're in some arranged marriage and say, well, these two individuals are around the same age, they're from the same culture, speak the same language, or the same level of, like, let's say, education level. They all went to university, or even the field of study as well. So they're looking at the sort of logistics of it. But the fact that a person is, both of them are organized or both of them are spontaneous, doesn't mean they're going to get along, because there are 16 types. So you can't just match them just based on that. So yes, it's important to have this logistical aspect, but there's more to it. Now, the other point that you need to keep in mind to know if someone's compatible is that the chemistry. So a lot of people, actually, this one is kind of interesting, because people usually confuse someone who is a man with having masculine energy, and a woman must have mostly feminine. It's not the way it works. Is that it has to do with that person's soul energy. So a person can be a straight man, masculine, but has a feminine level of awareness. A woman could be again heterosexual, and she has a masculine level of awareness. Uh, but what happens is that often when a person, let's say, is very masculine or very feminine, they tend to be attracted to the exact opposite. And most people, uh, they think that, well, because of the fact there is this attraction because of this polarity, then it means that we are meant to be together. The fact that you're sexually attracted to someone doesn't mean that they are the right partner for you. And a lot of people have run into this problem down the road. Based on what I have observed, is that what determines connection has to do mostly with a person's relationship style. And when it comes to relationship style, there are four main ones. So you have the feminine orderly, feminine spontaneous, masculine spontaneous, and masculine orderly. What happens is that if it's not a proper match, so if not both are feminine orderly, or both are not masculine spontaneous, the person who's the most feminine of the two types of relationship style usually doesn't feel connected. And interesting enough, not everyone wants the sort of Romeo and Juliet, we merge together, we feel connected type of relationship. Usually they might do that maybe at the beginning of the relationship. It's like the honeymoon phase, but long term, it's not what they want or need. And that is something that is rarely discussed by relationship experts and therapists and so forth. They just assume that everyone wants the ultimate soulmate. When I look at these different types of relationship style, the feminine orderly is the one that who really wants to be connected and on a physical, emotional, spiritual level. And so especially they're very much into more of the intellectual aspect. Also, it's important, but they really want to know this person very well. And I would say that the feminine orderly type of relationship style are the natural experts when it comes to intimacy. And the other types of relationship style are not very much into that. So I think that we have to be realistic as to what people are actually looking for. And so the other point is that when it comes to levels of awareness, it affects trust, because the person who is the most aware tends to be the least satisfied when it comes to the relationship, because the person who is at a low level of awareness might not even realize that there are issues in a relationship, and they are in fact safer than than the one who has a high level of consciousness. So if, let's say, the trust level is not sort of something that is solid, then it creates an imbalance in the relationship. So that's why it's important to actually match yourself with someone at the same level. And the other aspect also is that if, let's say, someone is at this level of awareness and someone at lower, is that when you think about what is to fall in love, falling in love has to do with an energy high. If, let's say, when you spend time with a person and you don't feel energized, if you feel depleted, it's virtually impossible to fall in love with this person. So the fact that a person at that level is attracted to someone at a high level doesn't mean it's reciprocated. So that's why it's so important to find someone who's around that level. Is that because one can literally feed the other. So it's a back and forth. It has to be mutual. So this is something that people rarely talk about. They think, well, anyone can be with anyone. No, if you actually can feel this person's energy, you realize that it's virtually impossible for that person at that level to actually feel better by spending time with someone at the lower level of energy or level of spiritual evolution. And the other aspect when it comes to what can make the relationship successful. For example, the proximity. Are you close by? Can you see each other on a regular basis? Physical appearance. I mean, do you take care of yourself? I mean, even in terms of like when talking about the jaw development, like you'll see that most people are more attracted to someone who has that well-developed jaw, and on a subconscious level, this person is healthier. So people saying looks don't matter. Yes, looks matter because your body tells a story. Because we know that if a person takes care of themselves, they exercise, eat right, get enough sleep, have good hygiene, their bodies won't look the same, 10 or 20 years down the road. So yes, you have to pay attention to your appearance. It also talk body odor, and if you're not eating the right things, if you're smoking, you're going to give up a different type of body odor, and that can turn the person on or off, depending obviously what you do, in terms of your daily habits. Your voice as well. Does the person enjoy how you sound, or even the vocabulary you use? Because let's say if you're talking to someone who's an optimist and they are for adventure and fun and things of the sort, they're going to probably using more of these words than, let's say, someone who's a rationalist and will be talking about all types of science and math and all types of mathematical equations. Well, it's not going to appeal to just about anyone. And I find that I think it's so important to know yourself and let the attraction be natural, not forcing it. Because if, let's say, your body, everything that who you are is basically an advertisement. So if, let's say, you present the best version and the version that is the truest, then you're more likely to attract the right person, someone who's truly compatible with you. So these are the points I wanted to talk about for chapter number 3. I trust that this was interesting and that you learned certain things that maybe you were not aware of. If you enjoy the video, click on the like button, subscribe to our channel, and I will talk to you soon.